Oh, Argenti, thank you for carrying all my runs. You've given me strength, courage, and hope. Oh my god. I think we're chilling. I threw. Argenti is our newest 5-star physical erudition character, and he's coming in hot. There's been a lot of talk about what his best build is, especially with the attack versus energy regen rope debate, so we're going to clear that up today and give you a definitive answer. If you find any of this info helpful, do consider dropping a like and sub, and without further ado, let's get right into it. First, we need to look at how Argenti's rotations play out and how much energy he can actually regen. Activating Argenti's technique puts enemies in a daze for 10 seconds. When you do enter combat with a dazed enemy, Argenti will deal a small amount of AoE damage, but more importantly, he'll regen 15 energy. Both his skill and ult are fully AoE, which works perfectly with his talent that allows him to not only gain a stacking crit rate buff per target hit, and at level 10 this can cap out at 25% total crit rate, which is actually kind of nuts because that's almost a crit rate body, but it also allows his attacks to regen 3 energy per enemy hit. His skill is pretty simple, dealing physical damage to all enemies. His ult though is where things get interesting. The first version of it will consume 90 energy to deal a moderate amount of physical damage to all enemies. However, if you wait to cast his ult at 180 energy, he'll unleash an even stronger AoE attack at first, followed by 6 bounce attacks. Do note that if enemies are defeated by any attack during this sequence, the bounces will not target those enemies. This means that none of the damage is wasted, and at trace level 10 it has a massive 850% attack scaling. There are times when you can opt to use a lower cost ult to finish off a weaker wave of enemies and recover a lot of energy while doing so, but you'll primarily be aiming to cast his ult at 180. In terms of leveling priority, go for his ult first, followed by his skill, and then his talent. So does he need an energy regen rope to perform optimally? If you just want the answer, it's no. That's not to say it's not viable, because it definitely is, but an attack rope will generally outperform it, so let's take a look at why. We're going with a conservative assumption here that Argenti will be hitting 2 targets and defeating 1 enemy in his rotations. Do keep in mind though that in most scenarios, you will be regenning more, especially if there's even 1 more target, or you're getting hit or taking out multiple enemies. You can see that at 4 skill uses, he isn't quite able to achieve 180 energy unless he has an energy regen rope. It's not advised to run him without energy providing supports like Tingyun and Huohua, but nonetheless, it's still worth looking at this. The one that you'll see most commonly and most importantly is with Tingyun, and you can see that at 3 skill uses, he's pretty much guaranteed to get his 180 cost ult even with an attack rope. Of course, if you have E6 Tingyun, this is guaranteed. Remember that we're lowballing the energy here. In actual combat, you will be getting his 180 ult this way with an attack rope every 3 skill uses. Also notice that there's no additional energy breakpoint gain here from using an energy regen rope. Both attack and energy regen would need 3 skill uses. The final situation here that you'll see is from running both Tingyun and Huohua together, and interestingly, though it won't happen all the time because Huohua is not refilling energy at the same rate as Tingyun, it is possible to achieve that 2-turn 180 cost ults. Realistically, with this team, you'd go alternating 2-turn ult, 3-turn, 2 turns, and so on. But again, you can see that even with an energy regen rope, you're not gaining an additional breakpoint. 1-turn ult is just not happening. There are times when you might face 4 or even 5 enemies, and this is where you can actually get your 180 cost ults an additional turn faster with an energy regen rope. The thing is, enemies in these big waves are generally weaker and you're going to be overkilling everything and getting tons of energy from defeating them, which does scale with your energy regen rate, but again, energy regen rope, you can get your ult slightly faster against weaker opponents, but you'll also deal less overall rotation damage to stronger ones than attack rope would. You tell me, which part of the fight is more important? To summarize, the main goal of running an energy regen rope is to get your ult a turn earlier, which in most scenarios, and at least the important ones, doesn't happen. Not only that, if you use an energy regen rope, you lose out on so much attack that your overall rotation damage would suffer a lot. You get the idea. Again, I'm not saying energy regen rope isn't viable, you can definitely use it and people have with success, but attack is better. Thankfully, after energy, the rest of his build is super straightforward. For relic sets, 4-piece Streetwise is his best in slot. If you're still working your way to a 4-piece, you can mix and match between its 2-piece for that 10% physical damage bonus and one of the 2-piece attack sets. You can also just use 2-piece attack with another 2-piece attack, but try to get that 4-piece Streetwise. As far as planar sets go, it really comes down to substats, but typically, Glamoth can actually be slightly better than Salsodo if you can maintain good uptime on 160 speed. Funny enough, this isn't that hard because you can just use speed boots and Hanya for example. though in most cases Salsodo will be better. Aside from these two, Space Sealing Station and Rudolin are also decent options. For main stats, you want a crit body, whichever one gets you closest to that 1 to 2 crit rate to crit damage ratio, though in most cases this would be a crit rate one. You can count his 25% crit rate from his talent as well, since it stacks up so fast and lasts for the entire battle, so it's actually not too hard to run him on a crit damage body. Otherwise, speed boots will generally be better than attack. The more actions he gets, the more opportunities for energy recovery and thus 180 cost alts. You can run attack boots though, especially if you have access to external speed buffs. Physical damage orb, this goes without saying, he's a physical main damage healer, and as we discussed in detail, you want an attack percent rope. For substats, try to aim for speed until you hit 134, then crit rate and crit damage will be the best, followed by attack percent. Now, don't actually go out of your way to get break effect, but because Argenti has so much break potential and physical is a great offensive typing, with a 200% multiplier on weakness break as well as applying a bleed, break effect isn't a dead stat on him, and he'll typically get a lot more value out of it than most characters, so don't feel bad if you get a couple rolls in it. As for his light cones, his signature, an instant before gaze, is his best in slot, followed closely by Qingqi's light cone at S5 from the battle pass. He easily maxes out the damage bonus on this light cone for his entire kit at 64%, which is just wild. After that, you'll see similar results with Before Dawn and an S5 Genius's Repose that has good uptime, which isn't hard to maintain. Night on the Milky Way can be a solid alternative, though it's a little harder to keep up its passive. And finally, Seriousness of Breakfast at S5 is the best free-to-play option and actually beats out an S1 Today's Another Peaceful Day. You now know how to build him, so to top it off, let's discuss his best teams. For the highest ceiling, his best current team will be him, Tingyun, Bronya, and Huohuo. You pretty much always want to prioritize at least Tingyun on his team, but let's go over some alternatives for the others. Honestly, any solo sustain can replace Huohuo here, and even better if they're fully skill point positive. We have a lot of options if you want to run someone instead of Bronya. You can go with a debuffer like Pella or Silverwolf, especially if you need the weakness implant. Asa's great, Hanya especially as well, because she's physical typing, which means she can run Planetary Rendezvous and Penacony for more physical damage bonus. Really though, Argenti can make any combination work, and you don't need Tingyun, but she does so much for him. Give the man his ult, and he'll do the rest. Overall, if you're looking for a reliable and predictable damage dealer, Argenti might be the one for you. His damage at 4 more targets is currently unmatched, his single target is quite respectable too, thanks to his 180 cost ult extra bounces. I feel like a lot of people might be worried about his really high energy requirements, but you won't actually notice this as an issue, but rather as a unique aspect to his kit. He generates so much energy by himself already, and if you can accelerate that process, he'll just delete everything. Now, do I think you need him? If you already have well-established damage dealers that cover a wide variety of elements and niches, his value definitely goes down, but just know that if you are pulling for him, he's solid and you won't be disappointed in his performance. Who am I kidding though? A lot of you are going to get him just because he's hot, and I don't blame you. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I hope I was able to answer most of your questions. Until next time.